Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Ninsel, host of AZ Illustrated Politics, our weekly analysis and commentary on local, state, and national affairs. Tonight, we'll talk about the sudden resignation of Tucson Unified School District Superintendent John Pedicone and the challenges facing TUSD. We'll also examine the latest in immigration politics in Washington and discuss whether Tucson City Councilman Steve Kasachik will face a challenger in his bid for re-election. But first, a look at today's top stories.
The Tucson Unified School District is getting some good news. A new report says the district is doing well when it comes to money spent in the classroom. A study conducted by the State Auditor General found that TUSD spent more classroom dollars per student than the state average in fiscal 2012. The district spends about $400 more per student than the state average. However, the audit also shows TUSD's administrative costs are higher than the state per student average. Teachers' salaries figure into the classroom spending totals, while things like transportation, food service, and administration are added to the other costs. The control towers at 4 Arizona airports are on the list for closure due to sequestration. This afternoon, the FAA released the list of 149 air control towers across the country that will be shut down due to the mandatory budget cuts. Locally, Ryan Field is on that list. Glendale Municipal Airport, Phoenix Goodyear Airport, and Laughlin Bullhead International Airport also will lose their control towers. The closures are slated to begin on April 7th. Officials with Tucson International Airport, which oversees Ryan Field, say that the small airport will remain open even though the tower will close. And Senator John McCain will be in southern Arizona next week. He's hosting Senators Chuck Schumer of New York and Michael Bennet on a tour of the border. Congress will be in recess, and U.S. Senator Jeff Flake will also be on the trip. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
President Obama told Jordan's King Abdullah he's worried that neighboring Syria will become a haven for extremists and vowed to persuade Congress to send Jordan more money to shelter Syrian refugees.
Margaret Warner is in Amman and updates us on the president's Middle East trip, capped by a breakthrough between two key U.S. allies.
Then we turn to Chicago, where city officials announced plans to close 54 schools, most in overwhelmingly black neighborhoods.
Now we got to worry about our kids going to another location and worry about what's going to happen to them going to school.
Hari Srinivasan continues our series on broadband technology with a look at a new digital divide over how high-speed access and mobile devices are being used.
And Mark Shields and David Brooks analyze the week's news. That's all ahead on tonight's News Hour.
Tonight on Arizona Week, Michael Chihak finds out what's going on with our roads. ADOT claims there are big changes on the way.
Roughly, the investment we have put into the transportation system here in Arizona is about $18.5 billion for the highway system. We feel it's our responsibility to the taxpayers to protect that investment.
That's tonight at 8:30 on PBS 6.
Tucson Unified School District Superintendent John Pedicone announced his resignation this week. Pedicone is leaving the district in June, even though his contract expires in June 2014. Joining me to talk about the challenges facing TUSD, former Tucson City Councilwoman Carol West, former state lawmaker Frank Antinori, former Pima County Democratic Party Chairman Jeff Rogers, and Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce President Leah Marquez Peterson. Thanks to all of you for being here. Jeff, were you surprised by this resignation by John Pedicone, and what do you think is behind it?
I was a little surprised. I think it could be the makeup of the board has changed. I mean, there was basically an entirely different, what we would call 3-2, maybe even 4-1 majority that was highly supportive of him and that he worked with. And I think that this election, we Democrats pushed very hard on 2 progressive Democrats to get them on the board, and that sort of changed the makeup of the board. So you now have, as we saw in the vote to not do some outside contracting, a 3-2 majority that might be be more difficult for Mr. Pedicone to work with. But you know, this is the end of a long chapter and a kind of a sorry chapter in Tucson Unified School District's history. I think a lot of us were very, very, very hopeful when Pedicone came in because of his history at other school districts, and we're hopeful that he would be sort of a great turnaround artist, and it just didn't happen that way. I mean, we went through that horrible wound of the ethnic studies and Mexican American studies, and when you look back on that, you have to wonder if you tried to handle that if you wanted to handle it as poorly as possible, you couldn't have done a worse job. And so, you know, I think that you know, maybe this is an opportunity for the district to really turn this around, but we need some stability. This is the 5th superintendent in the last 10 years. And so I think we need to take a long, hard look at what we need to do with this next superintendent, because we need somebody who's going to be loyal to this community and to this district, and someone who has some experience with the ethnic studies kinds of programs, because we've now got a court order that says they have to have this culturally relevant classes for African American and Hispanic students. And on the other hand, we still have House Bill 2281, Huppenthal and Horn, who are going to try to keep anything like that from happening. So, you know, this is a needle that somebody's going to have to thread, and we're really going to have to look hard for somebody that will be able to do that.
And I want to talk about that, but Leah, what do you think Pedicone's resignation means for the district?
You know, I certainly was concerned when I heard that Dr. Pedicone had resigned. I think he came back to education after managing the Flowing Wells School District and took on some major challenges for the district. Certainly ethnic studies and a lot of the different issues that TUSD faces. So as representing the Tucson Hispanic Chamber, we want to certainly be involved in the search for a new superintendent, but also concerned about the upcoming challenges that superintendent will have to face.
And Carol, the district does face tremendous challenges.
They face tremendous challenges. However, Dr. Pedicone did do a lot of good things, including getting some of these snafus straightened out with their computer systems, their financial system. All of that has been straightened out. That we have fewer schools at a D level. They are now at a B level. The core curriculum is in place. So yes, I agree that it's a challenge right now, but I think sometimes we forget to look at some of the good things that have happened. And Dr. Pedicone was certainly helped by some of the staff he hired during this time. Maggie Schaefer comes to mind, and of course she's leaving too. So, you know, I think that we'll just have to see what happens. But I think it does put the district in disarray for a while again.
Is this bad news for TUSD, Frank?
Is there any good news coming out of TUSD? In disarray, they've been in disarray for the longest that I can remember. You have a school district that's akin to that dysfunctional family down the street that every neighborhood has, where the cops are always there, they're always getting complaints filed against them. I mean, that's basically TUSD. You have awesome school districts surrounding it, whether it's the Vail School District, Catalina Foothills, Flowing Wells, even down Continental and Sahuarita school districts, and then you have in the middle, you have this dysfunctional school district that is always out to gather attention and draw attention to itself because it doesn't want to focus on educating kids. It rather would like to focus on the politically, let's say, polarizing and issues that divide people rather than bring them together. And it's a very activist, divisive school board that they have there now. And it's going to be very difficult for them to recruit anybody of any decent caliber to step in as superintendent with the track record that they have. And over the past few days, once this word got out, I have been hearing from a lot of parents in TUSD who said that they want to go to the legislature and ask for some way that they can escape TUSD and be either annexed into a neighboring school district or break the district up altogether. They think it's irrevocably broken, and they want to get rid of the current system because they don't think that the priority is on education. It's more about their activism and the trouble that they like to cause and draw attention to themselves, and it's hurting the kids.
And you were not a fan of the Mexican American Studies program?
Oh, of course not, because you know what I'm a fan of? Science, math, you know, the basics of comprehension and reading. You know, that's what the economy of this country is built on. And that's what I believe the public schools were founded, is to create people that when they leave high school are educated to a degree where they can enter the workforce and become productive members of society. They instead have decided to become indoctrination factories and teach them certain pedagogy that I think is quite counter to what the American people believe is what should be taught in our schools. And I think it has harmed them irrevocably, and I don't think they can recover.
I mean, this is an urban school district. Let's not forget about this. It's not like Vail. It's not like Amphi that are more suburban school districts. And that's a challenge all across America. This is not unusual for an urban school district with and right now approaching 70% Latino population. And so these are big challenges that urban school districts across America are facing. And we need a strong leader in there, and we need a board that will support that strong leader. And I think that a lot of us thought Pedicone was going to be that person, but it hasn't turned out that way, and we need to really look ourselves in the mirror and ask what it's going to take to straighten out this school district.
And Leah, I wanted to ask you about the Mexican American Studies program.
You know, I wanted to address also what Jeff mentioned. There's a different socioeconomic condition that a lot of the families in TUSD are facing. So certainly science, math, a priority, but when you're worried about your children having shoes or having the food to function properly throughout the day, there are different components that are falling within the challenges of the district. Regarding ethnic studies, I'm of the belief, and certainly at the Chamber, we promote heavily the value we have in the proximity to Mexico and just what kind of economic impact that has on our region. I think in American history classes, certainly there should be a component that includes Mexican American studies for all students that are in TUSD. The debate, the political divisiveness, the things that happened, I think what was very unfortunate for the school district. Now that they're having to add these cultural components back in per the lawsuit, I'll be interested to see whether they allow all students throughout the district to learn more about Mexican American studies. I don't think that it has to be this divisive issue. I think it can be cultural learning that's very valuable to all the students.
And Carol, the business community has also said they really need a better school district simply to help bring more jobs and make people more comfortable about moving to Tucson.
I believe I've heard that from young business people myself. However, we do have open enrollment. And if people are unhappy with schools, and of course that's why the school in my neighborhood closed, and I'm very unhappy about that. And the charter schools are very popular with some parents. Many are sending them to some of these other districts, such as Vail and Foothills and so on. And so it makes it even more difficult for TUSD. And yet I can cite many schools in TUSD that I think are doing an exceptional job. And Dodge Middle School is a good example of that, along with Soling Tom Fruitländler. Of course, they're all on the outskirts of my ward where I live. So of course I know about them, and I know there are waiting lists in some of those schools.
She makes a good point. Open enrollment, if you just saw recently in the news, the Vail School District sent letters to TUSD parents telling them they're full and they can't offer any open enrollment. And actually kids that have been in the full Vail School District over the last couple of years through the open enrollment program are not going to be allowed back now because the population in Vail is growing to such a degree. Back to what Jeff had said, the Mesa School District doesn't have this problem. It's a large inner city school. It's actually bigger than TUSD, has more kids, and you don't see them guys out there causing this type of notoriety and national attention because they're focused.
It's not the same kind of an urban kind of core that it has.
They have a large Hispanic population. It's a large urban school district, and they have a lot of kids in that school district. And then, back to the Mexican American Studies. If you want to teach how people of Hispanic descent or from Mexico and Central America contributed to the melting pot of this country, I'm all for that. Okay, I believe that all the wonderful cultures that have come here and created this wonderful American culture, the melting pot that has made us the greatest, the e pluribus unum, of the world, is something that should be taught. But to create a sort of separatist type of curriculum where you divide and conquer and tell people that they're oppressed and they're being picked on and they're victims is not something that people want being taught in our public schools.
So would you have us erase slavery in that dark chapter from our history
Jeff,
books? Well, there's some dark chapters involving Latin American people and Mexico. And so you can't ignore those either. And there's nothing wrong with telling people whose ancestors were the people discriminated against, letting them learn about these issues.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
a problem with
I'll
that,
give you an example. I grew up in in northeastern Pennsylvania, and almost everybody that went to my high school was Italian. The teachers had Italian surnames, the coaches, everybody, but we didn't have Italian American studies. And Italians, if after talking to my grandfather and what he went through trying to find a job here because he couldn't speak English, he immediately went to work in coal mines. All the English-speaking immigrants from Europe, the Irish and the British, were getting jobs as police officers and public servants, and all the Italians were being thrown into the coal mines of Pennsylvania. Okay, but yet we didn't have this ingrained victimization. Instead, 2 generations later, I was in the Arizona legislature. My brothers and sisters are all successful and they're doing well because we had a work ethic, and we were told to put that behind you and become Americans and focus on being great with regard to the American dream, which is working hard, getting a family, and pursuing your pursuit of happiness.
Well, that's all wonderful, but I wouldn't be.
Oh, that's all wonderful.
But I wouldn't be against teaching the people in that area about their Italian heritage. what's wrong with that as well?
But if I could add, I think the bottom line is that we need programs, whether they're Mexican American study focused programs or STEM, whatever they might be, to focus on graduation rates. That's our issue. And there are best practices that we can find, whether it be in the Sunnyside School District or Vail. I mean, Sunnyside's doing some great things in their school district. We've met with Dr. Schietto recently.
They're teaching kids.
But they're also realizing that school districts, public school districts, are competing for students with charter schools and private schools. And I think that's a good thing. I think school choice is something that we should allow.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a very challenging situation that a new superintendent will step into, but I think there are good things that can still come from TUSD.
Okay, and let's move on to the immigration issue, another contentious issue. This week we had the Republican Party released its postmortem on the election. They said we need to reach out to more Latino voters and work on immigration reform. Rand Paul, the senator, gave a speech this week in which he said he thought there should be some kind of normalization of the status of people who are in the country illegally, although he did not use the term path to citizenship. Frank, is there some movement in the Republican Party away from the whole idea that people who are in the country illegally now all need to return to their home countries or be deported?
Yeah, I think that, has always been the discussion. We've had, Newt Gingrich proposed an effort. The House has a plan that involves a normalization, so to speak. I think that a lot of people are tired of what, as Rand Paul himself also called, a de facto amnesty that we now have in this country. We have amnesty. We have a president and a Homeland Security director that refuses to enforce immigration laws. They're letting out criminal and felony level illegal immigrants out into the public again instead of deporting them. We've got problems with the immigration system, and I think the American people would support a normalization or even some sort of pathway to citizenship if they got confidence in the fact that the federal government was going to enforce the law. And until that component of this occurs, you will not see anyone supporting any kind of amnesty or normalization until laws in the books are enforced.
Well, this is merely packaging. First off, President Obama has deported almost twice as many people in the time he's been in office as George Bush did in the same period of time, and he's focused he has focused on criminals and not on hardworking families and people who just came across the border to make it. The problem here is that the Republican Party wants to package this up real nicely, but they don't want to offer a pathway to citizenship, and that's the difficult area. And Rand Paul came out in many newspapers, and the Associated Press said, "Oh, he looks like he's in favor of a pathway to citizenship," and he said, "Oh, I never used those words." Same way Jeb Bush kind of backtracked on that as well. So what we're hearing from the Republicans is kind of what we heard from Frank here a few weeks ago when this subject came up as well, is that we want to normalize them and allow them to be here, but it'll be some kind of apartheid type of system where they'll be, able to work, and as Frank said, normalized, but they won't have a pathway to citizenship without having to go all the way back to their own country.
And do it like everybody else.
That's a non-starter.
And do it like everybody else that came here
It's
legally.
not going to work, and it's not going to. It's not going to pass.
I think you don't leave your front door unlocked and you allow people to come in and raid your refrigerator. Okay, you don't do that. There's a reason people lock their doors, and they invite people into their home, and you come through the front door and you ask permission. You don't sneak in the middle of the night, raid the refrigerator, and go home. It's the same concept with the country. I don't think anybody is opposed. I wouldn't be here if it wouldn't be for immigration. My grandparents came here in the 30s and early 40s because they were running away from Mussolini. The reality is this country supports immigration, but we want you to come through the front door and do it legally and follow the rules like everybody else did.
But
don't cheat the system.
It's not going to work. It's just
following the rules and the laws.
It's not going to work. We've got 11 to 12 million people here, and we're not going to be able to send them back to their country.
And nobody's
to come
talking
in the front
about
door.
that. We're talking about allowing allowing them
been
to
talking
stay.
about that, Frank.
We're talking about
in all fairness,
allowing people to stay if they've not broken any laws and if they pay their back taxes and conform with current federal immigration law. They will be granted a visa that will allow them to stay here, so we're not ripping families apart, but granting them a full benefit of citizenship after having cheated the system and coming here illegally.
So you wouldn't support the pathway to citizenship?
Not the way that I think you guys are defining it. I think there is a pathway to citizenship. You allow them to have a visa, and then they go through the process like everybody else. They go to a consulate, they file the paperwork, and they immigrate with permission of the United States government, and then become naturalized U.S. citizens, just like people that do it the right way.
Return to their home country?
Sure.
Return to their home country.
Yeah, or they can stay here.
I think the reality of what is occurring in our nation, you mentioned two things: the importance of the Latino vote in the nation. So that's something we need to address too. Certainly immigration, top of mind for GOP, which we're very encouraged by. That's great. I think now we can perhaps have this dialogue throughout the nation and something can occur. I think it's also encouraging that there's a differentiation between legal status and pathway to citizenship. A lot of the different people that we talk to, certainly we need them out of the shadows, as they call them, with some kind of legal status here in the United States. And I do think there should be a pathway to citizenship that I don't think means returning back to their country, but certainly has penalties and a sense of fairness to it. What we're going to be watching, though, all Latinos, I believe, at the Republican Party, is the tone of this debate. You heard that during the last presidential election, that immigration was not number one for Latino voters in terms of priorities. It was still job creation and economic recovery. But we need to hear the tone and hopefully a sense of respect as we're going through this. Even for myself, I'm not here undocumented. I'm here certainly as a U.S. citizen. But this is something that would affect even my opinion of the Republican Party, and I'm sure many others will be looking for that also.
All right, and Carol, I'm going to give you the last word on this because I want to move on
Well, even Rand Paul says that they don't have to go back home again and start over. But I'm very interested that both Jeb Bush and Rand Paul are taking on this issue. 2016 is coming up, and there will be some presidential candidates. It couldn't be that they're thinking about running, could it?
Right. Speaking of running, we have a city council election this year, and Carol, you are co-chairing Steve Kosachik's campaign for the re-election to the Ward 6 seat. And
yes.
what brought you into his circle?
Well, I think he's a pragmatic problem solver, and I like that. We Midwesterners like people whose feet are on the ground, and that's the way I see Steve. He's been a strong advocate for the city of Tucson, and God knows we need advocates. And I support him. I think he's a hard worker. His constituents like the job that he's doing. And I thought the other night there was quite a diverse group there at his announcement party. I was very impressed with that as well. It wasn't the usual few suspects. There was a large group of people from across the community.
And Frank, you've tangled with Steve Kosachik on a number of occasions, but you supported him.
I'm actually pleased that he admitted through this coming out party, and Mr. Volge actually validated that, saying that, you know, this guy, and as well as our current mayor, validated that he was truly a Democrat all along, and that's what it really was. I'm glad he admits it now. He lied to a lot of Republicans and deceived us into thinking that he was some kind of fiscal conservative that was going to come in with this pro-business sort of approach, and he's really done nothing for the business climate in this town. He's been chasing guns and paper plastic bags and everything else while our streets continue to deteriorate and businesses are still not coming back in this recession like they are to the north of us, and we've been lagging behind in the recovery in the state for a reason, because again, we have a city council that would kill projects on the west side that would bring jobs in this town. You know, they're fighting the Walmart at Elkhorn over liquor licenses and stuff now, which are, you know, it just amazes me. And they're so wrapped up in the minutia that they're not focusing on the economics and the job creation. So, you know, whatever. If he wants to come out and admit now that he's a Democrat, good for him.
Is he going to have an opponent?
I don't know. I don't know if he's going to have an opponent.
Okay. Jeff?
I doubt if he's going to have an opponent. I think he's a very strong candidate, as I do think about Councilman Fimbres and Councilwoman Ulick as well. You've got to look back at where the city was 3 years ago when these people took office. You know, they walked into office, and 8 days later, they were all told that we have a $33 million deficit that we have to address right now. The following fiscal year, it was $44 million. The following fiscal year, it was $55 million. And unlike cities like Mesa and Glendale and others who fired cops and firefighters and cut back on parks and recreation, creation. They did creative things to close these gaps that were reality-based budgeting, and there was some pain, some furloughs for many city employees, but they've done a Herculean job, and I applaud them all three, and I think they all three deserve re-election and are all superior candidates, and we're not looking like we're going to have any kind of strong opposition so far.
So they haven't reduced the number of police officers and firemen in Tucson?
We've had some losses due to attrition.
Okay.
We didn't lay anybody off, and police and fire weren't furloughed either.
And Leah, your thoughts on Steve Kosachik's re-election?
Well, you know, at the Tucson Hispanic Chamber, we don't endorse candidates and we're nonpartisan. But what we've tried to do is stay on top of various issues within the City Council, like the fact that Steve has been challenging status quo in many cases, regardless of party. I think a lot of our members have certainly been impressed by that. What we are trying to do, though, in the chamber is be proactive and work directly with the council offices to reach out to their businesses in the ward. Frank's right. I mean, the businesses are slowly trying to recover. It's still been very challenging. So rather than wait for City Council to do something, we're trying to go directly to the ward and work one-on-one with each of the businesses.
And we are down to our last 3 or 4 minutes here, but I wanted to talk about Governor Brewer's Medicaid expansion, which emerged this week with a hearing at the House Appropriations Committee. Frank, you are still pretty opposed to this thing. Can it get through the legislature?
As well are the vast majority of Republicans in the legislature, and I was just up there this week, and you can count the number of Republicans on one hand in the Senate and maybe 1.5 hands in the House, and that's not enough. And the Speaker and the President are adamantly opposed to it as well. So we'll see, but I don't give a lot of high hopes to it. That's why earlier when we were talking, I predict a long, long summer for the legislators up there, because the governor's going to hope to wear them down and get them to start capitulating by keeping them there like she did to us back in 2009 until almost September, October. And that's kind of the strategy now, is just to grind them down to get them to cave in.
And we did talk about the merits of this last week, but the politics of it, Jeff, it sounds like it is going to be a long.
I think that probably there are enough Republicans who support it to get it through either house. But that's not how the legislature works. As Frank well knows, committee chairs have a lot of power. The Speaker and President of the Senate both have a lot of power. And so if you've got the most powerful people in the Republican Party in the House and the Senate are opposed to it, then Governor Brewer may have trouble getting a vote on the full House and full Senate floor. That's where the problem is, getting it to the floor. If you can get it to the floor, I think it'll pass, because this thing has a tremendous amount of money involved in it. In the very first year of its operation, it would bring $1.6 billion, that's $1 billion, into Arizona's economy. It would help hospitals that are, well, the hospital in Douglas declared bankruptcy, is in bankruptcy proceedings right now. The uncompensated care is killing, particularly the rural hospitals. And federal law means that requires that if someone arrives in an emergency room, you must serve them and help them without any payback. And so you've got that uncompensated care out there that's huge.
They have no money.
And that's why the business community, and this is like the immigration
But they have enough
issues.
money, Jim, to funnel millions of dollars to lobbyists in Phoenix. So they're broke, but they've got millions of dollars to give to Chuck Coughlin and the other lobbyists. We're
seeing the Chamber of Commerce type Republicans and business groups staunchly backing this, and then we're seeing the sort of Tea Party part of the Republican Party who's against it. And so this is a real divisive issue for the Republicans.
Leah, the Hispanic Chamber is behind this.
Absolutely. We've joined our voice with about 40 other chambers that are in support of the expansion of Medicaid.
And the hospitals, absolutely. They have agreed to tax themselves to pay Arizona's share. What's not to like about this?
All right, and we are out of time, but very quickly here, Arizona versus Harvard tomorrow. Jeff, Arizona
by 15 to 18.
It's going to be slaughter. Arizona will win that one. So.
Leah?
Arizona.
I think Arizona.
All right, agreement on the roundtable. Fantastic. We are going to have to leave the conversation there for this week. I would like to thank my guests, and we will be right back with some closing thoughts. You can learn more about politics by visiting azpm.org or by following us on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Jim Minsel. Thanks for watching.